You're watching GWIZ, the only network for gaming, games, and the largely imaginary demographic stereotype that a cabal of marketing executives for youth-targeted consumer goods believe to be representative of gamers. Aw yeah! Now, back to getting your news on with G-Play and your host, Sessman Adler.
Hey there, all you gaming gamesters. I am Sessman Adler. With me as always, in a vain, transparent attempt to imply that this network is aimed at anyone other than obnoxious 13-year-old males, Morwin Zed.
What's up?
Thank you, Morwin. And now your gaming news. Tragedy was averted today when a group of 4 game convention booth babes who'd been missing since last night were retrieved by police unharmed after an armed raid on the Phi Beta Dusha fraternity in upstate Sheboygan. It is believed that the still unnamed suspects abducted the booth babes at knife point while attempting to win free swag as part of EA's Abduct a Booth Babe at Knife Point contest being held to promote the release of their blockbuster new game, Wuthering Heights. Reached for comment, an EA spokesperson said that while they may not have thought the promotion all the way through, they have confidence that the game will still be a major success because, and I quote, "your mom will totally hate it." An exciting announcement today from the world of the color spectrum as a crack team of research scientists from Activision revealed the discovery of a previously unknown shade of brown. The new color, located on the game design color palette somewhere between rust and non-specifically Middle Eastern sand, and dubbed Grage by its discoverer, promises to take design possibilities of the military FPS genre to entirely new heights, and within an hour of its unveiling, it had already become the most requested new player skin shading for the upcoming game Call of Duty, I don't know, maybe this time Korea or something. And now with a special report, Morwin Zed. Morwin?
Thanks, Sessman. Ahem. Still no word on the whereabouts of Z-list internet celebrity turned gaming vigilante, the Game OverThinker, who went missing during what is believed to have been an encounter with the mysterious PyroThinker, the arsonist who has claimed responsibility for the destruction of several game stores and local landmark the Sharkade. Police Commissioner John Bonifacio released this audio believed to be the Overthinker's last known transmission.
Change of plans, Commissioner. As it turns out, PyroThinker is a ninja.
Word that the so-called PyroThinker may in fact be a ninja has already proven to be a public relations nightmare for embattled Republican Senate candidate Jack Lieberson, who has faced tough questions about his ninja American background since the beginning of his campaign. The senator issued the following statement to the press.
I have said from the beginning that this campaign should be about jobs, education, and our children's future, and not about my ninja heritage. While I am proud to call myself a ninja American, I join what I believe to be the vast majority of the ninja community in denouncing the actions of rogue ninjas like PyroThinker completely and utterly. Thank you.
And thank you, Morwin. That's it for G-Play, kids. Now stay tuned for 15 body spray commercials in a row. You're watching GWIZ.
Oh, hells yeah. Keep it here on GWIZ, brought to you by overpriced male grooming product and shitty lemon-flavored booze. Ya heard?
Man. Frozen by the evil ninja CryoThinker. This is worse than that time I was animated by Seth MacFarlane. Holy crap! I'm being animated by Seth MacFarlane over here! Anyway, I've been trying to avoid this topic. Everyone keeps asking, Overthinker, do a show about the Supreme Court. And I keep thinking, geez, guys, I don't know, it seems like we need the virtue of time and perspective to actually know what to say about it other than hooray for our side. They keep going, no, do it now! But since I'm still frozen solid, and since Bebop and Rocksteady here are apparently content to just keep celebrating instead of taking the opportunity to finish me off, I've still got some time to kill until my contingency plan shows up. Alright, roll credits, let's do this.
Our universe rests on the uneasy border between two worlds. The world of man, ordinary and stable, and the world of games, imaginative and chaotic. Where these worlds collide, one man is called to stand for reason, maintain the balance, and destroy ignorance. He is the Game OverThinker.
As everyone knows by now, back in June, the United States Supreme Court ruled that the state of California, and by extension every other state, cannot pass laws restricting the sales of violent video games to minors. More importantly, as part of the majority decision, it categorically rejected one of the key theories that are supposed to justify laws like it, namely that the interactive nature of games makes them substantially different enough from other forms of entertainment that they require special regulation. In other words, we won. Both the most powerful argument for and the claim of any right to engage in de facto state-level game censorship have both been declared bupkis by the most widely respected court of law in the civilized world. This is a big fucking deal, and both gamers and free speech advocates in general should be thrilled with it. I certainly am. That having been said, we've had almost 3 months now to revel in the good guy's victory, so now it's about time for me to throw some cold water on it. Maybe not so cold as this shit CryoThinker has me trapped in, but cold nonetheless. First things first, let's not go overestimating the awesomeness of the Supreme Court justices on this one. It's not as though they came out swinging just because they're all hardcore crusaders for gaming and or speech. Far from it. It was a 7-2 decision, but at least 2 of the good 7 have gone on record saying they'd have been willing to allow a similar ban if it was just worded better. As fun as it was to hear Antonin Scalia making the same what about violent nursery rhymes argument that guys like me have been making for years, this case was decided on the reading of legal and constitutional specifics, not on some grand moral line. Also, again, not wanting to diminish the overall monumental nature of the occasion, but the decision was not exactly a surprise. Even if the California ban wasn't a sloppily constructed mess of a law, the fact is the current US Supreme Court can be counted on for one thing above all else. If a given case involves some measure of conflict between a corporate interest and any other type of interest, the corporate interest is going to win. If our Supreme Court was any more devoted to the idea of corporate capitalism as a basic good in and of itself, Andrew Ryan would be the Chief Justice. All that really happened in this particular case, good as it was, is that the corporate interests in question belong to corporations we like. Soon enough, they'll decide in favor of a corporation we don't like, and all that goodwill gamers suddenly have for the Supremes will vanish in an instant, I promise. Secondly, okay, this is the tough one. 2 words. Now what? For as long as there has been a violent video game discussion, at least here in America, it's been totally dominated by the question of regulation. There wasn't much need for gamers to be philosophical or introspective about it. In fact, those would have been detrimental actions at the time. This was war for the very survival of the medium. Stark, simple, black and white stuff. Regulation or not. Free or unfree. No room for gray area. Were there difficult discussions or layers of counterpoint to work through? Absolutely. Just not right then, in the middle of a firefight. We had to show a united front against the specter of a games ban, even if it meant having to come to the defense of otherwise crummy violence for violence sake stuff, and most importantly of all, any talk of games that maybe did have a negative message, or that maybe there might be instances where a developer may wish to behave in a more socially responsible way, or that certain games or genres of games might possibly in some circumstances have a negative, although I stress not empirically negative impact that gamers should consider condemning. All that had to be held over for some other time, because we were at war, and you don't show disunity or vulnerability when facing down the enemy. And I don't have a single fucking problem with any of that. Ensuring that video games were not made the subject of restrictive laws was the #1 top priority, and we did what needed to be done to win that fight. Not, of course, by lying, or even by misleading or stretching the truth, but by making the conscious decision that, essentially, fixing stuff around the house could wait until the house was no longer under attack. Battlefield Tactics 101 stuff. No regrets. But you know what, gang? The house is no longer under attack. The fighting is done. The war is over. Jack Thompson and Joe Lieberman and all the rest cannot hurt you anymore. They can yell and scream and make their noise, but the only thing they could ever hope to accomplish has been declared legally impossible by what is literally the last word on what is legally impossible. We have won the fight to protect gaming from a government ban, which means that now all that shit that's broken and not working around the house, all the unresolved tensions and outstanding problems between various members of the quote-unquote family, all the other stuff we put on the back burner to concentrate on the big fight, now we've got to deal with that. Especially the stuff we consciously avoided taking seriously because it might have made us look weak to the other side. And taking a harder, deeper, more difficult look at some tangential aspect of the violent games discussion is one of them. You don't want to? Well, too fucking bad. That decision just got made for you. I'm assuming no one needs to be told who this is, but just in case, this creep is Anders Behring Breivik, the Norwegian right-wing domestic terrorist responsible for what was called the Oslo Massacre on July 22nd. I'm not going to rehash the gory details because frankly he's had far more attention than he deserves, but suffice it to say almost 80 people, including children attending a day camp, were senselessly murdered. Breivik is your basic far-right militant douchebag. He's big into guns, he has a chip on his shoulder about feminists and Marxists, he wants to kick all the Muslims out of Europe, pretty much just a Nordic Timothy McVeigh. He wanted the massacre to draw attention to his so-called manifesto, which is pretty much a rambling how-to manual for fellow would-be terrorists. One bit of quote-unquote advice unsurprisingly jumped out at people. He referred to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 as, and I quote, part of his training simulation. Yeah. Holy shit, right? Can you imagine if that had hit the news before the Supreme Court decision? That would have been literal Christmas in July for old Jackie Boy here. All those years of calling video games murder simulators, and the guy who carried out the worst act of violence in his nation's modern history stands up in front of the world and says, "Oh yeah, they totally were. I used it for exactly that purpose." The game-banning crowd would have been all over this. But they weren't. It didn't really catch fire in the media, and nobody really bothered to blow it up into a huge thing. Why? Well, like I said, that fight is over. Yeah, sure, propping up Breivik's rant as some kind of circumstantial evidence might make them feel better about their cause, but there's no chance for them to make any legal headway anymore. It's done. But that's Jack's problem. Here's our problem. Back when this was still a fight for the future of the industry, it would have been understandable, even logical, for gamers to either ignore this troublingly specific aspect of the Oslo tragedy, or to hurriedly and as loudly as possible declare that it's just a madman's statement carrying no merit and not worthy of consideration. But you know what, folks? And this is me talking right now. I don't think gamers or the gaming culture really has the right or even a reason to still be so reflexively defensive about stuff like this anymore. Simply put, there's no chance this can be used as a weapon to criminalize games in this country, so now the impetus is on us to look at issues like this in a serious manner with brutal honesty. So here's some brutal honesty as I see it. No. Playing Call of Duty did not turn this jagoff into a terrorist. That's stupid. You know what else is stupid? The very idea that playing a fucking first-person shooter is any kind of training for using real firearms. The whole premise is bullshit. Anyone who tries to argue otherwise is full of bullshit, yeah. However, look, I love games, I love gamers, I love game culture, but it's not perfect, and it does have problems and issues that could use looking at and maybe even ironing out. And I think this might be one of them. Did video games make this guy kill? That's a stupid question. But you know what's not a stupid question? What, if anything, about this game was so attractive to this sick mind? I mean, let's ask some tough questions of ourselves. Do shooters, hell, do modern games in general devote too much time to simplistic firearm worship? Has gaming embraced too much of the so-called gun culture without any attendant aspects of responsibility or even acknowledgement of that culture's very real dark side? Has the shooter genre produced too many Red Dawns and not enough Full Metal Jackets? We talk all the time about the value of games for blowing off steam and vicarious fantasy, but hardly ever about how what amounts to a simulation of realistic war without realistic consequence is obviously going to be very appealing to angry, disturbed young dudes with a gun hang-up and a persecution complex. In the usual worst-case scenario, that means this guy.
Yo, the pro, I fucked your fucking grandma so fucking hard in the fucking dumb teeth that she fucking spits out blood, motherfucker. You suck dick. Abuse your power. Console game out, give a fuck. You'll never see your Xbox again, piece of shit.
But in the really, 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 really worst case scenario, it can also mean this guy. Should we, as gamers, be okay with that? That's not a rhetorical question that I already have an answer for, by the way. I'm literally asking you. Should we be okay with that? You tell me. It used to be in these cases we'd be so wrapped up in trying to shout down Thompson and Company's attempt to connect these creeps to us after the fact, but the time has come to ask what, if anything, gaming culture itself could be doing to make the medium not quite so attractive to them in the first place. I don't know how many people remember this, but there was a short period in the 1990s when the fact that skinheads in America and parts of Europe tended to be big into metal was starting to catch on with the mainstream media, which had never liked metal to begin with. It never really blew up like certain other metal controversies did, though, and that was partially because a lot of metal fans took it upon themselves to start saying, no, that's not us, that's not what metal is about, screw those guys, they are not welcome in the metal community. Guys, I'm feeling like it's not enough to just ignore things like hate speech and online multiplayer. Maybe it's time to actively confront it, refuse to game with assholes, and shame them for their behavior. And it's not enough anymore to just tuck our heads and hope that people don't blame us or blame the medium for psychos like Breivik. We should be out in front of this issue, saying loudly and clearly that even though gunplay is going to be a big part of gaming for the foreseeable future, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, asshole militant gun nut psychos are not welcome in our community. We don't want them here. Like I said, this isn't one of those times when I've got a big answer for things. These are questions, issues. Maybe we should be discussing them. But there is one thing I am sure about. The Supreme Court decision was a huge victory for gamers, but also a huge challenge. Are we going to keep having the old debate about violent games with guys who don't matter anymore and can't possibly win because it's easy and makes us feel good and self-righteous? Or are we going to prove that we deserve the newfound freedom conferred upon us by taking up the newfound responsibility to move the discussion forward to neglected and more important areas, even if it takes us places we'd rather not go and forces us to confront issues we'd rather not acknowledge? Alright, that was kinda heavy, I'll admit, but as ever, I hope you've been left with something to think about. Now then, what say we lighten the mood a bit by finding out how I plan on getting out of my chilly predicament? Well done, Ivan!
How about you just bring that thing with you next time, huh?
Commissioner.
Overthinker. Oh, thank Elorira. Are you alright?
No, I'm okay.
What's going on out there, kid?
Good news and bad news. Bad news is, there's two of them.
Oh no. Don't tell me there's also like a ice guy or something.
There's always an ice guy. The good news is, I know who they are, and I know what they're after. They're after me.
You? Why would two ninjas be out to get you?
I killed their father.